Hey everybody, welcome to the GMG review. This is going to be a little bit different from what you're probably used to. Today we are reviewing Warhammer 40,000. Oh, Jesus. Warhammer 40,000 Leviathan, which was kindly sent as complimentary review copies to 4 different people. This is going to be a multi-part review. This is a big box. It required a lot of heavy lifting and more than one person, I think, to adequately talk about, discuss, and break down. And so I've assembled a rogues gallery, if you will, a group of the, I would say, pinnacle of middle-aged men that could possibly review a product as storied as a 10th edition of Warhammer 40,000. Now, if you want to see the rules yourself, I'm not doing a rule review, because like 48 hours ago, all of this went digitally live on the Games Workshop website. You can download it and check it out for free. And that's what's in this box. So what we're going to do today is review the box itself. We're going to review the product, 10th edition 40K as an idea. And we're going to give some unique and different perspectives on what it means for a new edition of this game to come out, how we feel about what we've seen so far, what's in the box itself, and what our plans are for the summer. So this is the first of a tale of 40-ish gamers. And it's going to continue all summer long. I got lots of plans. We'll see who sticks with it and who makes it to the end. So first I want to introduce these, I guess, thieves and scoundrels who I've assembled. Most of them are fan favorites from GMG. And we'll start off with Jay Griffiths. He is here. Say hi, Jay.
Hey, guys.
You talk and then they can see you.
I talk and then they can see you. Nice. So this is some kind of futuristic radio?
That's right. This isn't a phone call. And then we've also got Nick Denty, who's here.
Hi, everybody.
Hey, there he is.
They say I have the face for radio.
You do indeed. And then we got Chris Sly from Lords of More Games and Hobbies.
Hey, everybody.
And so I have assembled a group of people who I think best represent in my personal circle the ways you could interact with a product launch like Leviathan. So we have a hobbyist who has been playing Warhammer 40,000 since the 80s, which is Jay, who hasn't played a ton, but has painted tons of miniatures over the last like 30 years. Forever. Forever, 30, 35 years. We've got Chris, who is on the retailer side of it, who actually has Warhammer 40,000, a big component of his livelihood, right? Because he sells it in his shop. And they have Nick, who is, I think, best representative. You may notice he's balancing Jay on the 40-ish part of this whole journey, as he is the one that is actually, I think, actively representing, I think, who the Games Workshop 40K community is now, which is more online connected, very much hungry for information, like searching the internet for like the meta.
Sorry.
Yeah,
I'm the super fan. Hey, I love to play one of everything from my book. I think it's more fun to actually play a varied list, but I also want to see what the scary stuff is. So
he says that, but he really likes the Tears of Children.
Yes, he does like
I have 9 squig buggies. I can't play 9 squig buggies anymore.
He's connected, I think, to the current editions of 40K in a way that I'm just not. Like, I'm like the old man sitting in the cabin in the woods, and every once in a while the kids come camping and mention things to him, and he's like, "Cool, that sounds great." But Nick is very much in tune, I think, with what's going on currently, and so that seemed like an important thing to, I guess, like showcase and be part of this conversation, so we can talk about Leviathan. So I'm going to kick it off. For those of you who don't know me, I've been a 40K player since the late 80s. I played from Rogue Trader through until now. I've played every edition. I'd have to check the playlist, but I think on GMG, we played 30 or 40 games in 9th edition. A lot of Crusade, a lot of incursion level games, probably maybe a half dozen to a dozen, like full 2,000 point games. I played no 40K games that we didn't record. I didn't play any 40K off camera. I played when like guests came in and people were excited about the game. I painted from 8th edition to 10th. I painted Deathwatch. I painted Custodes. I painted my Knight Army. I painted my Ultramarines Army. A few new Necrons and my Leagues of Votann. That's it. So kicking off this edition, I've probably painted in the 6 years since 8th edition, I've painted maybe 4 or 5 armies and played, under 100 games in 6 years. And that's it for me. I think that I really enjoy playing Warhammer 40,000. I think from a collector's point of view, I like putting my collection on the table and playing on like a nicely painted table. And when Leviathan comes around for 10th edition, it's kind of like having an old flame come back into your life, and they're like, hey, do you want to give it another try? Do you want to see if we can make it work this time? And so that's where I'm at with Warhammer 40,000. I'm every single edition, I'm willing to give it another go and see if we can make it work and see if we can get back together and make the relationship happen. And I'm always open-minded. I'm not prejudging. And after my first few games of this edition, I'm cautiously optimistic. But I'm always very optimistic in the early stages of an edition because it's the lightest, I think, touch the rules tend to have, getting in the way of me collecting the models I want and just kind of like doing what I feel like with creating a cool experience versus playing a game. So that's it for me. So I'm going to let Jay introduce himself and tell you where he's from, what he's at.
Sure. Hi, everybody. So yeah, I got into 40K back when a buddy of mine's father brought Rogue Trader back from the UK before we could find it anywhere over here. So yeah, I've been playing 40K since the start. I would say 40K, if I'm gonna piggyback on Ash's analogy, is definitely the girl that I fell out of love with. I played a ton. I played a little bit of Rogue Trader. I played a ton of 2nd and 3rd edition, and from 4th to 8th, I dabbled in it occasionally. And 9th, if somebody sent me a ransom note, I would definitely play 40K to save someone's life. But I was definitely not the target customer for 9th edition 40K.
It was a lot of reading.
Yeah, it was way too rules heavy. It was far too much time worrying about what the rules were and not nearly enough time saying pew 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 while I pushed my little guys around the table. But I've always liked the imagery and I've always liked the lore and I've always liked the miniatures. Like, I have kept buying 40K miniatures while I had no interest in playing 40K. And I'm sure we'll get into it in some depth later on, but having read the new rules, and I did break with tradition, and I actually read the rules before I read all the flavor and the fluff this time. I'm actually really stoked about 10th edition. It is a throwback to the way I want to play games, and it makes me excited about 40K the way Age of Sigmar made me excited about GW's fantasy models when it came out.
Cool. That's a heavy statement that it's got AOS vibes. Although we'll talk about that some more, I'm sure, in a minute.
Yeah, we'll get into that.
There's some real AOS-y stuff in the data slates that like you see when you see the breakdown for a data slate in the rule book, and it's like, oh, this is just a rearranged AOS data slate.
Hey, can I copy your homework? Yeah, but make it a little bit different.
Just add objective control, and they won't know that it's just that little circle.
It's fine to copy the homework. The homework was an A that time.
I guess that's true.
Yeah. Don't copy the slow kid's homework. Copy the head of the class's homework.
That's fair. Cool. So what about you, Chris?
Yeah, like I feel like I'm a tale of two people, right? Like with the, having the business, it's a bit like you, Ash, like it's having the business hobbyist part of me, and then having my own personal hobby that I enjoy with friends and on the side. And even before I opened the business, working for Games Workshop, there's that part too. So it's always been balancing those two elements together at the same time. So on a personal level, I'm definitely more of a fantasy head. Like when it comes to Games Workshop's fantasy games, collecting, painting, I've always geared more towards the fantasy ranges. And when AOS came out, was huge into that. Loved the changes. And that's been my main driver. Being a 40-ish gamer, having young children, time squeeze more and more every year. You kind of have to pick and choose your games, right? So the last time I probably played and collected 40K seriously was probably 2011. So it's been a good decade since I've probably been, I'd call an active 40K player gamer, where I've been collecting and playing games on a monthly basis. And been engaged in what's new and what's going on, and our Nick meta guy or whatever, Games Workshop's target guy.
Well, it's funny because Horus Heresy filled that void for you for a minute too, though. You went hard in Horus Heresy in the first edition of it.
But I think, and maybe we'll get into this a bit more later, but I think for me, like I said, with time constraints, I have my game AOS, which I love and I play, pretty regularly. I think the main reason 40K fell out wasn't necessarily the rules for me. Well, maybe it was, but like it was more to do with the time demand of the game seems to have moved away from from the casual player towards a bit more of the media experience, which I think if you like, as an AOS player, I like it being a media experience because that's my one game. But as a game I might play on the side, I'm really looking for something like Jay was saying that I can just like pick up, put on the table, and just like be able to jump into right away. And I think that's what I'm kind of maybe excited about and looking for in this new edition is I'm hopeful and optimistic that that's a product that's going to be for a person like me. And we have a pretty casual vibe at the shop. We're hobbyist first sort of mentality, painting, collecting, that sort of stuff. And I think we've been like really hungry looking for 40K to have that sort of like stepping stone or that like casual format for people to really sink their teeth into. For people that just don't want to get into the meta chasing and all that sort of stuff, they just want to put their models down, have a good experience, and not have like 17 books that they have to open to play.
I think it's really interesting. I think we're gonna get more into that when we talk about the actual like rule book and stuff. But I can definitely commiserate with that idea of the game felt a little bit gated from the point of view of you had to understand how and what to take. Like if you just took anything, your experience probably was suboptimal. Like if you just took what you liked, your experience might be suboptimal, or you were just forced into taking certain things because of like the way that the force organization charts worked. And that's something that seems to have been blown up a lot. So I'm sure we're gonna talk about that again.
Yeah, and I think just to add like the little bit of retailer kind of side of things too is I think anytime I think that we can all agree, like anyone who's been to a hobby store and seen had any experience with any communities, the thing that worries me and that I see is like casual gaming has really dropped off in hobby stores.
Yeah,
and and I don't blame the people running shops because you have to get boots in and like you're trying to make money, and the easy thing to do is just to run a tournament. So people throw a tournament up, and then that becomes the dominant sort of way to play. So I feel like the sort of main way to play at the store has really moved more to like the match play, the newest chapter approved style. We're all kind of a victim to that, and I think it really puts off new people. Like, and you don't want to throw people into that right away. So there just becomes this sort of like abyss for new collectors and hobbyists. They don't really know how to kind of take the next step.
It's funny, Mike Loudon from Black Knight Games, which is another local game store, like a city over from you, did a podcast with me, and he calls that kids playing shitty 40K. He said that the healthiest a game is when you see people playing the shitty version of it. They're playing with like their like random collection of models, pushing them around the table, learning the rules, and having an absolute blast. And that was he said the exact same thing about his game store and his experience when we did our we did a podcast, a Patreon podcast for Tinfoil Hats that was about the sort of the idea of like how can you gauge the health of a game in your store and where it's at. And his whole thing was when it's the conveyor belt and you see people at the end state but you don't see people at the beginning state. That was his whole like,
that's a really good way to put it.
Hang on, right? And he's like, when I stopped seeing kids playing shitty 40K, I realized that there's like the on-ramp is closed. Like where like this on-ramp feels like it's not to say closed because people can still buy into it, but you like if you need to be a 20-something employed, lots of free time person to get into 40K with like a bunch of disposable income because it requires this like big investment like upfront, that's a problem. Right? And AOS doesn't have that gate, which is funny because AOS is much more free form for army selection. It's much more free form for like just buy and play with what you want to play with, like have a leader and have a couple battle lines and just go. And then the rules have always been free and the app's always been free. So like the on-ramp's just way more open. And that was his description for where like he was feeling it was at, is he's like, there's not a bunch of like 14, 15, 16, 17-year-olds standing around the shop playing with like their
it is a good analogy.
Inherited miniatures.
It's almost like a different language, right? Like you walk into the store, you get your first set of models in your hand, and you look over and you see these guys playing a tournament like match play game of 40K. And it's like Babby, it's like lost in communication, lost in translation. You're just like, I don't understand the steps to get to there. Or, like it's just,
it's such a gap. It's such a huge gap. It's like
playing the same game still.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Yeah, I don't know how this becomes this. All right, so let's hear from Nick. He's our man of the people. Probably
How
most
does
of the
this become
people.
this?
I don't know. Most of the people watching this tonight or tomorrow are probably going to connect most of all with you because I think you represent that like avid, you consume all the news. You're on a lot of like the Reddit forums, and you're on like, or sorry, did I just say Reddit forums? Did that just
sure
date me in
did.
and of itself?
You
Like,
sure did.
I'm gonna use my 1200 baud modem to dial up to the
you're on the BBS
BBS.
boards. You're on the BBS. You're connecting to the BBS boards. You're ICQing about stuff. Woohoo! Like, it's called the Tale of 40ish Gamers. If you didn't come here expecting this, then
You can change it to a
Yeah,
tale of
you get
50ish gamers an hour
I'm
from now at the
closer to
rate we're
40
going.
than I am to 20, so we'll call
it's-
that a win,
yeah,
okay?
exactly. I was gonna say you're on the downslope of 30, so I
Ooh,
figured you
boy.
qualified. So yeah, so let's hear about your how'd you get into
So
it?
yeah,
Your
hi
experience.
guys, I'm Nick. I've been playing 40K since I think my first box was the Assault on Black Reach, the Orcs versus Space Marine box. I think
It's a
I bought
quality
that
box.
from your store actually, probably at the time.
Yeah,
And
probably.
so
It
I've
might have
been
been
playing
Chris's
40.
store. I might have given it to him at that time. It might have been Chris's store by then. I think it was Chris's store by then.
I didn't
It
say
wasn't
who
Lionel's
your
store
was.
anymore.
It could
It
have been
wasn't
talking to
Lionel's
Chris.
store anymore. Yeah.
So yeah, Chris has actually oddly been in my hobby life for a long time, Chris. But yeah, 40K to me, especially with the new edition, 40K was like that hometown girl that I left. She's like, oh, she was cute, and I fell in love with her again when she came back. And I dropped 40K for a long time just because I like the models, but the game was really confusing. I only had one friend to play with, and as a kid, not being able to travel, it's like, where am I going to go play a pickup game of 40K? So that kind of side tabled until 8th edition came around. And all my friends just were like, let's just try the new edition. You know, we've been playing and probably played about like maybe 24 games of 8th edition, really not that much. But when 9th edition launched, and I don't know how, because we had a pandemic in between, I somehow played more 9th edition 40K than any other game I played. All my friends were into it. We play a lot of pickup games. I watch a lot of reports. I just when I paint, I like to watch people play. So I watch like 5 to 7 hours of Warhammer 40K content a week, people playing, just because it's the thing to put on, and you learn the rules pretty quick, or you forget them pretty quick. That's also possible. Opening up the new box was pretty sweet. The tournament play scene is always tough because I agree. Like when I go to the store, everyone says, "Oh, let's play Arcs of Omen 2,000 points. Let's all pick our secondaries," and that's fun. I don't mind doing that. I have a good list for that. But what I always want to say is, "Do you want to play Tempest of War first?" And I bust out the deck with the random missions and the random twists. And guess what? They did that for 10th edition. It was sick. So that's been the best part of us playing the 10th edition games for me. Has just been like, I like the random deployment. I like the missions. Still have the tactical way to play and that pickup like point and the random twist, which came up once, and one is good in my opinion, but the other one is like just really hard to do. How about anyway?
We'll get there. We're gonna talk about the Leviathan box after this.
My big sad about the box is that how am I supposed to play with this box?
Oh, well, again, we'll talk about that too.
So that's about. I think that's about it. Anything else you want me to cover? I mean, I play a lot. I watch a lot.
You are excited about this box, and you want to talk about it so bad, and that I think adequately describes exactly who Nick is. He's like, let's talk about all the things we know about the box. Let's just get there. So let's do that. Let's dive into. We've introduced everybody. You know who your speakers are now in the debates.
I play 7 armies. Is that better?
No, it's fine. It's fine. You did great. This is like I couldn't have planned for any of the three of you to describe your experiences more accurately than I thought you would. This is perfect. So yeah, let's jump in and talk then about the product itself with the Leviathan box. I'm going to lead off and just talk a little bit about the rulebook, the models, and then we'll talk about the just the overall like product itself and the value and stuff. So starting with the rulebook, big old hardcover. There are a few things about this rulebook that stood out to me, and I'm gonna just shout them out, and then we can all talk about what we thought about them. Maybe the first one is how much of this rulebook is dedicated to talking about products. In fact, the first 100 and how many pages are the common patrols?
This this bookmark is
There
where
you
we would
go.
start.
That's right. Okay, there you go. So that much. And what's funny is it's hard to tell what page that is because the rule book starts off at page 1 when it gets to the rules. So I have to
Every
go
page
and
is
find
page 1.
291,
every
subpage
page is
1.
yeah.
Every day has a dawn.
And there are no page. Yeah, sorry. It's page 100 and no wait. There's no page numbers at all. Oh my god, there's no page numbers in the cover
Nope.
section.
You
There's
just
actually no
enter-
page
Where
numbers.
we're going,
So
you don't
sorry,
need
no,
roads.
we got it.
So-
It's pages 192, I think, is the last one. Page 192 is the last comp patrol. And so there's a real like drive in this book to tie the background for the miniatures to products you can go and buy. And what's cool about that is if this book ends up in your hands outside of this box set, which I imagine it will at some point, they're going to sell this rulebook separately. If you just bought this rulebook and wanted to play Warhammer 40,000, it's describing 16 on ramps to the game. It spends a huge amount of time talking about comp patrols, who the characters in them are, what the force compositions are, what models you get in those boxes. And the descriptions of the in-universe factions are all tied to their combat patrol. So the 188 pages in the front of the rulebook, they're dedicated to like giving you the setting of Warhammer 40,000. Each one uses the combat patrol box as like an example of like, and this is the archetype of who this faction is and how they play, and here's why those units are in this army, and here's the leader, and here's why he's important.
It's the how to buy action figure man episode of Action Figure Man.
Look, I'll
was
redate
gonna
myself
say,
and say
it
one of the
feels like
best
a-
parts about Christmas, the Sears catalog.
Yeah,
You want to look through the book? You want to see what you can get? This is the book.
it has a real like DC Superheroes Unlimited kind of vibe to it, where like they're driving around in like purple submarines, and it's like, why does Aquaman have a purple submarine? He can breathe water, like because you go buy that purple submarine, son. It has a very like clear. It stood out to me because it was very different from the way they've done background in the past in rulebooks. Background in the past in rulebooks was typically a huge section by itself, giving you a ton of detail into each of the individual factions. This one was a bit of background and then an immediate description of like a product you could buy and a breakdown of the product. I think I'm not bagging on that, dunking on that actually, because of my previous comments of like, we need to make it clear on how to start and how to get into this hobby potentially. But it was very interesting. There's like a conscious like decision to spend the first half of the rule book basically giving you like a brief synopsis of every faction, and then here's the thing that you can go and buy to play that faction, and how like direct that was. So what did you guys think about the comp patrol stuff? I know you haven't seen it yet, Chris, because I couldn't get the rulebook to you in time, but Nick and Jay, because Jay, you've actually looked at this section, and I know Nick, you have as well. And sorry, Jay, you have, and Nick, you have as well. What do you guys think?
Well, I won't steal Nick's thunder. I know one of the points that he wants to make that he kind of touched on before. I will say, again, from the point of view of it being super easy to jump into, I really like the idea of the combat patrol. The idea that, and if I was Chris, I would love it even more than I do. The idea that somebody can walk into a store and say, okay, this is a box. I buy this box. This is everything I need to be playing this game right now. With possibly a caveat that Nick will share in a second. So I like the concept of it. I like the smaller scale games. Every time I've been lured back into 40K in that gap between 3rd and 10th by somebody, it's always been, the premise has always been playing small games. So the only games of 9th edition I actually played were the boarding patrol games that we played, because they were small and they were tight, and you could put together a tiny little forts and you could play some games and it could be fun and engaging. And yeah, so overall, I like the idea of the combat patrol. The presentation is interesting. And I don't mean that passive aggressively. Like, EW's gone through a lot of different kind of takes on how they physically present material. And in a lot of older editions of the game, they lean way more heavily into artwork, which kind of painted this much bigger, broader picture. And by focusing in on the miniatures, I think it's something more tangible for people to wrap their heads around, which is great. It's aspirational in a very different way to me. So I do like the overall presentation. I think it gives it a lot more accessibility. But again, being somebody on the older end of the spectrum, it just doesn't feel like where I started off. And I'm not sure if that's a good thing or a bad thing, honestly.
Yeah, I think you're really right about the straight line between the background, the art, and the products. It isn't focusing too much on one, right? It's just like here's a picture of what these guys look like background wise. Here's a picture of the miniatures. Here's the background for the rules. Like it seems to be a very good like 1-1-1 ratio of that stuff in this book for sure. What do you think, Nick?
Well, as a selling point to somebody who is number one, I try to get as many people into the hobby as I can. So when I see people in stores, I always try to boost it. And the number one question is always, well, what do I get? Well, this is great. Here's an individual box that is your entire experience in one box. We even gave you all the specifics for it. Don't worry about picking all your crap. Just pick what we're suggesting, pick 1 or 2 things, and start rolling dice. To me, that sounds like the winning game plan to sell a box. And if you're 2,000 point army and that's a quarter of your army that you can pick up for $200 or less, which is like best value, good way to start. Probably what you need for the army. They're all decent. They made a decent job. So This is a balanced little experience. This is like Ash and I's favorite thing to do is like, cool, it's like a pre-made deck. Let's just play the stuff and roll it out. It'll seem fair because we all have the same basic stuff. It's not, I showed up with my 30 jump pack guys. I'm behind this wall. If you move, you lose. And I just win by not moving. That's not very fun.
It feels a lot more Shadespire. Like it feels a lot more Warhammer Underworlds, right?
It does. Actually feel very Underworlds.
Like it feels like they're taking a page from that. Here's the warband. Here's how it plays. Here's that sort of like intended experience. Go forth and try and like achieve using that intended experience. And when we get to after the rules section, there's an entire Combat Patrol and Crusade sections at the back of the book. So Combat Patrol is the key feature of the Leviathan rulebook. There's one open war mission, which isn't really a mission. It's just here's how you put down models and play a game. Like it's just like it's open war. Yeah, it's not even like a mission really. It's just like here's 2 equal hammer and anvil deployment zones and score VPs when you kill things or hold objectives. And there's no secondaries or anything like that. It's just put down models and play. But there's 6 full Combat Patrol missions that outline like everything you need from like the deployment, the objectives, the secondaries and stuff. And that seems to, again, it bookends really nicely. You have the core rules for the game in the middle, and the back half is Combat Patrols, and then how to play a Crusade. And when you play a Crusade, the Crusade actually has like a full narrative experience of the Tyrannic War. And that's something we'll talk about at the very end of this podcast, our review. But it's like a themed to the models that come in this box experience, basically, and the Crusade rules themselves for playing Crusade. So I think the Combat Patrol thing is exciting. I'd like to hear what you think about that, Chris. The fact that there's like this like kind of wholly intended on ramp that you can sell to people.
You know what's really interesting is card game companies have been making pre-constructed products for decades. And they are really successful, especially like a lot of those products are geared towards beginners. Because anytime you can get anyone into anything that's complicated, anytime you can take away steps that they have to do, they have a better chance of picking up the other things you're trying to teach them. So it's kind of interesting that it's taken nearly 10 editions of a game for them to realize, maybe we should do a pre-constructed product. So I am actually really optimistic about that particular format. I think and the other interesting thing about the precons, we call precons in Magic and stuff like that, is another knock-on effect is not just beginners like those products, but you actually end up seeing a lot of people that just like to play casually never move past that. So
they just want to be told. They just want to know what to do. Tell them what to do.
They don't want to like it. And this isn't meant as an offensive thing to Nick, but like they don't want to move into the hobby that fully, like have the immersive.
Or they don't have time to
watching battle. Yeah, or they have
that time crunch thing. Yeah, exactly.
So it's kind of interesting. And to be honest, when I first saw the Combat Patrol thing pop up, I got this is the business side of me was like, oh yeah,
you hit the money eyes.
I was like, this could be great, right? Like and obviously Games Workshop is putting a lot of chips into this too. Like it does seem like they're putting a lot of eggs into this basket. They really want this to hit. And I would be really shocked if trade accounts like myself all across North America and like weren't just like jonesing at the bit for this particular format, because when I saw it, I was like, oh, this is how you build a hobby community. Like,
Yeah.
a format
Did you
like this.
immediately order a bunch more combat patrols?
Well, it feels like it from like a retailer point of view, it feels like this could be like a big shift to their module change, right? You could have a module one that's just comp patrols and a rule book, and you have such a like better bestsellers line all of a sudden in trade accounts, because you can't screw up that product, right? It's all playable. It's all something that can come off the wall and become a game, and it's all like nuts and bolts miniatures that you want in those armies anyway, right?
And you know, I'm kind of guilty of this, you know, like been in the hobby so long, and you know, when people come into the shop, they're like, I want to start the hobby. We have that conversation, and people ask me now, Chris, like, how do I start the hobby? And you know, I I almost want to say I don't know.
Go back in time to 2008
you know
when
what?
there was a 2-player starter set.
Yeah, well, it's there are still those products, but it's a lot less obvious now, and there's so many products. And you know what Games Workshop has done, and other companies have done a great job of giving a lot of ways customers can like get into something, right? But to be honest, it does also create this sort of situation where you're like explaining something to someone when they just want to get into the hobby, and there's like so many roads they can choose that sometimes they just like get stun locked and they just kind of walk away. So I think stuff like this that streamlines the entry process, I think, can only benefit the game growing again. Like you said, getting people to play casual junky games of 40K. It doesn't.
Yeah.
I like that it doesn't take as much space up too. I think that's great.
Yeah, the real estate's smaller, especially. Well, they've increased the table size for incursion games. It's up to full table size for 1,000 point and 2,000 point games now. But Comp Patrol itself is what incursion used to be, which I think fits in that like double kill team board size perfectly. And I think all those terrain sets that they produced over the last year are exactly what you need for kill team.
So if you've been buying kill teams, or like, you know, basically if you have kill team boards, you just jam two of those together and you got a combat patrol table.
I think the Sector Frontieris one is actually like that though, isn't it? It's the two boards and a thing. Yeah, and there was a Sector Mechanica one that was
Nockmund is the other one.
Nockmund, Warzone Nockmund. Yeah. They were both like two boards and a thing.
It's there's a lot of potential there, I think. Obviously at the end of the day, it has to be good, right? Like it has to be fun. It has to be like there is that sort of catch or whatever, right? But there's the base there for an exciting entry level product that I think a lot of people can enjoy. So
well, it's worked well for D&D. It's worked well for Magic. It's worked well for anybody who's like, I think that thing you said earlier is really interesting about people who have a pinch for time versus money. So they really want to get the maximum enjoyment for their small amount of free time, right? So if they only have so much fun time, they want a complete experience. They want to complete that gameplay loop of like build, paint, play. And this offers that opportunity. And like you said, some people aren't going to move past that because it just fits them really well, right? They don't have the time to like create the experience themselves. It's like those people that order meal kits. You know, like they want to cook like a Thai, like a pad Thai dinner, but they're not going to go learn how to do it. So they order a meal kit and they do it like instantly one night and have it.
Absolutely. And, you know, I think people can be their own worst enemy too. When they start, they have all these ideas about what they want to do and like how they might play and how they might consume the products. And I think this can give people a really clear first objective, you know, like you said, to kind of complete that first loop. And we've all seen it. Especially those that have like run shops and worked in shops, that first time people complete their first army, like that's the first hook, right? Like that's the hit, man. That's the first hit. When you finish your
chasing that dragon forever.
That for the rest of your life, you'll be after that.
The maximum snooter. It's the Colombian gold.
How do I get back to that place where?
That's right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. You're gonna be snowblind the rest of your life. So I do think it's an interesting choice. They spent half the book on it and then a good maybe like 50 pages after the core rules on this comp patrol stuff. So it seems like it's a big in, and I think it's exciting for us for a bunch of reasons. I think that like ease of entry for Jay and that potentiality of new customers for you, Chris. And then I'm that guy that wants to order the meal kit. You know, like I'm literally that guy that just wants like a complete experience. And I want to be able to see what they intend. And I like listening to somebody's album too. Like I'm a person that if they say this is like a complete fun experience, the reason why I like Underworld so much is I can just kind of like rip and go and enjoy and listen to somebody else's record. I don't have to be the chef all the time. I don't have to write the army list. I don't have to do that. That's not in me. Like I don't write the army list in chess. You know, like I don't.
I would
You
play
just play
8
the
queens.
game.
You're doing it badly.
Yeah, exactly. Like, why don't you have 16 queens? Ash, your army sucks balls. Like, this is not how that works. Sometimes you just want to actually play the game. So let's talk about the core rules then. Everybody who's watching this has got a chance to look at them right now for free. I'm not going to do like a big deep dive on them. I'll go through a few greatest hits of things we've noticed. And yeah, and the first thing is I'm going to call it the AOSing of it all. The stat line, the core stat line, the stat block in the data sheet. You can remix it all you want, but with the exception of a toughness value, it's the AOS data sheet. That's it. It's an AOS data sheet where
This
you
one's
still have
long.
certain toughness. That's it. That's right. It's long instead of deep. That's right. They stretched it out, but it's exactly the same. Yeah, it's funny how quickly that happened and how I'm completely okay with it. I don't know how you guys feel about it, but how do you feel about the fact that we are as far now from the second edition 40k stat line as we could possibly be, right? We're the old Space Marine t-shirt that we all had that said M4, WS4, BS4, S4, T4, I4, A1, LD8. That's gone. That old venerable stat block is just gone. How do you guys feel about that?
I think as far as 40k goes, I think Games Workshop was trapped by their own success with second edition 40k. You have something that's that massively successful, like you go back to that time and you look at what else there was in the world of sci-fi wargaming specifically, but even broader, go to like just mass market wargaming. Nothing could hold the candle to 40k in terms of success. And as you move forward, you're going to want to update or change your game or do whatever. But I think when you've got the most successful product going, it really tightens up the guardrails about how much you're willing to change it, knowing that you might lose what you've already got. And again, you see that in a lot of different games from a lot of different game companies. Like if you're looking at, card games like Magic, there's new cards all the time, but man, the core way those cards work has not changed, right? You look at D&D, and current super exciting drama aside, every time there's an edition change, there's a million people screaming about how they're never playing again, and there's a million people super excited to get on board. You don't make an even trade on it, you lose. So I think when second edition 40k came out, and you saw this with the older editions of Warhammer Fantasy too, right? They had this golden goose, and you can always look and say, well, people are changing and the way people engage with this material is changing, but it's hard to roll the dice and risk losing the customers you already have. And I think this was a change that was long overdue. Because I think the big transition, put my marketing hat on, and I'm going to say the big transition from 9th to 10th is identifying that they have a different target customer now than they did 5 years ago. And that has got to be a hard sell when you're like a multi-million-dollar company selling all over the world.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah, you've the people who've like been making you succeed for a long time they're old now. And even the people that like inside your business are old now, right? You have a new generation of people bringing new values into the business and changing up the game and not afraid to like kick over those guardrails. It's funny because I can remember like 15 years ago hearing someone argue about how it was crazy that Warhammer games in general, not just Warhammer 40k, but Warhammer Fantasy too, because they shared the same stat line for 20 years. Basically, they're identical. How it was crazy that they had a base 10 stat line where the stats could go from 1 to 10, but they didn't use D10s. It was just like you have this weird table for like what you need to roll on a D6, and sometimes you have to roll like a 6 and then a 4 to make the number higher, where you could just roll a D10 and roll underneath, and it's like everyone was just scared to use anything that wasn't a regular 600 dice because people might get worried about it. I completely agree with that idea of like we don't want to scare off our customers. We're nervous about rocking the boat too much and changing too fast.
But as a group of older guys, if I can just interject for a second, like you have to identify that whether you want them to or not, your customers change. Because if you think about it, for all of us who have kids, the idea to any of our kids that they would watch TV the way we watched it when we were their age, yeah. that's not at like the idea that if you wanted to watch a show, you would watch it at a certain time and only that time. You would sit through commercials, yeah. And when it was over, it was over. There was no next episode. Like my daughter is 16, and like I think if I described that to her, she'd think I was making it up. It would be the equivalent of telling your kid that you walk 20 miles
It's like right now.
like uphill in the snow every day, right?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
it's the same kind of thing, right? Like it's not objectively good, objectively bad. It's just how people want to engage with this material is completely different than
It's
it
true,
was
yeah.
40 years ago.
Yeah. And what their expectations of entertainment are, like what their expectations of like how they're going to interact with the media or the rules or even how the games feel to play, like they're less imagination driven and more sort of like competitive. That's a kids raised on Call of Duty mindset. You know what I mean? Where like you're given these like very specific parameters of victory. You stand in circles to hold zones. Like it's a video gamey thing. And it's bleeding in because the people who are designing and creating and marketing and working in those game systems and ecosystems now have a very different like experience up to the point of creating it. It does feel like 8th, 9th, and 10th. 8th and 9th were almost like a slow, like peeling back of like the idea that the game was going to fundamentally change. 8th edition was a pretty big left.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like 8th edition was a very big, like we threw the whole thing out and started over with, geez, Chris, you remember how many stacks of those index books we had? Like,
Oh man, I remember you coming in and buying the
oh my gosh, there's
this
so
pile
many
of books
index
or
books.
whatever. It was like
Yeah, it was like, well, hold me a copy of each one. And I walked in and bought like I could have bench pressed those books. There was like you had to put them in 2 piles to curl them. It was like 60 pounds of books. Yeah, it was like it was a big shift. And then 9th edition kind of kicked the can a little bit, shifted things a little bit. It got a little more competitive. It seemed to bring in the ITC, right? It brought in like that competitive scoring thing of like that hold 1, hold 2, hold more secondary objectives. Those weren't in 8th edition at all, outside of like, fan made formats. And then that's going to lead me to part 3 of this conversation, which is this thing right here, which is the thing that people haven't seen yet, which is the Leviathan card deck, which Nick alluded to in a minute ago. And then specifically this, which is how to play Leviathan games. It's little like posted in rulebook. It even comes with objective markers. But this is a big key feature of this box set as well. That we've tried out. How many games have we played, Nick? 3?
Yeah.
So far, using this deck. We won't talk too much about the games. We will talk about the deck quite a bit. Yeah, it's I don't know how I feel about it yet. I'll be honest with you. I want to hear how you feel about it, Nick, first, and then I'll make up my mind based on what you say. You tell me how I should feel about it.
Well, the secondaries, there are a lot less than there was in the Tempest thing. It's not like there's like 21 secondaries. So having a more consistent idea of what you're doing is kind of nice in that regard. They felt easy enough to do that I wasn't like, oh man, looking at these options thinking I can't do any of this. This is just going to be not fun for me. It's like, okay, I might have to change my plan a bit. These guys might have to sit back. But that felt good. I always like random deployment for some reason. I hate having to just pick from me deck. The game felt fine. The twists we just kept forgetting about because it's new for us still. I think it's gonna
the gambits or the
more
twists. Do you mean the gambits or the mission rules? Because the mission rules were like the twists.
Yeah,
the gambits are the gambits. Yeah.
The game twists.
Well, the gambits only really matter if you're really getting hammered, right? If you're really getting like destroyed.
Oh, there was a game where the gambits could have been really helpful.
Oh, that's right, because you were really getting hammered. That's right. That's right. You were really getting hammered. It's funny though, because of the gambits, only one of them actually feels like a gambit you could pull off. I'll be honest, of the 3 gambits, and for those of you who don't understand what we're talking about, is there's basically 3 cards you flip each turn, like each game. You flip your deployment, you flip your primary mission rule, which is like a twist, basically. Like we had one where if you rolled a 6 for a run, you took a mortal wound. So like you basically there's minefields out there, which was cool.
Yeah, you did.
There's I sure did. First run of the game. And then it can vary from things like Maelstrom of War is there's multiple ones. You have to draw 2 more and add them in. They can affect like drawing missions if you're playing with variable missions and stuff. And then you have your actual like mission, your primary mission, which is like your hold 1, hold more, whatever. And they all interact with the deployment cards. So your deployment cards will have what the objectives are. Then it'll say what the scoring for those objectives are going to be and how you're going to win the game on the primary. And that's how you can score like 50 of your victory points. Then you go to your secondaries, and there's 2 ways to play with them. You can either just pick, if you're going to do what I'm going to do every game, and probably Jay is also going to do every single game, is you just pick 2, and those are your missions for the whole game. That's it. These are like the extra little bits and pieces that you're going to try and score over the course of the games. It's like kill lots of characters, or what was another one? Nick, there was
Engage on all the fronts.
engage in all fronts, yeah, which is like a classic like secondary. Go and be in the covers. Get your opponent's deployment zone. They're basically the old secondary VPs from the second edition mission cards, which is why I think Jay will like them.
I hate learning new things.
That's right. I'd like all of my mission rules to be taken from boxes from 1997. And then the other way of playing with it, if you don't have them as fixed missions, is you can randomly deal a river of 2, and then when you score them, they go away and you deal a new one. So you can play with them like the old 7th edition mission cards, which I thought was interesting, as they brought back the 7th edition way of scoring, where it's like you deal a new one, and if you get it, you get it, and if you don't, it goes away. Which are a bit more like probably forgiving because they change all the time, and if you don't like them, you can actually spend a CP to just redraw one too, which was a cool thing. You have like a new orders like stratagem that you can do that's in the Leviathan deck. It's on the back there. And the gambits are, if you're getting destroyed on turn 3, you shuffle. There's one that just says proceed as normal, and there's 3 other cards. You shuffle them, give yourself 2, and then you at the top of 3 you play them face down, and you review which one you've played. And if it's proceed as normal, just the game just continues and it goes as normal. But if you're playing one of the 3 gambits, one is just the one that I really like, which I think Jay will actually probably play against me at some point, is just Broken Arrow. You nuke the site from orbit. You just decide to completely overlay the primary mission. And at the end of the 5th turn, you get to roll 2d6, and you add 1 for every corner of the battlefield that has one of your units within 9 of it, because you basically run away from the center of the table because the nukes are coming. And if you add up to 12 or more, then you get plus 30 victory points. You just automatically get 30 victory points because you just like you turn on the Hammer of Dawn and you rain death from the sky. The other 2 seem very hard to do, and I don't actually think will be very viable because you have to have at least 4 units. They're almost impossible in the games we've played because we're playing 1,000-point games, because you don't have enough units left. Because the minimum amount of units that you have is 4.
Yeah, have 4 guys in the middle.
And like and if you're losing already,
total.
if you're already losing, having 4 units left in a 1,000-point game is very difficult. So like they only seem to matter in bigger games. But if you can draw the nuke the site from orbit 1, you can always just hope that you roll boxcars and then just win the game because you called down the
I'm going to hell, but I'm taking you with me.
Exactly. Yeah, you just yell Broken Arrow and then you just napalm the entire battlefield. It's an interesting twist. I think the gambits will be kind of meaningless because they're going to happen so rarely. Like they're hard to pull off. There's an evac one where you have to have units in the center of the table, and you have to have at least 4. It's either half your remaining units or 4, whatever's higher. And then on a 4+, they go away. So you have to roll 4 4+s to then get plus 30 victory points. So you have to just have 4 units survive in the middle of the table and then roll that. It just doesn't happen, I don't think. And then the other one is have 4 units remain in close combat at the end of the game. Because you're holding the line, you're holding people off, and it's like this is
okay.
None of these really seem fun. I would just Broken Arrow every single time and hope I get lucky, because at that point that seems to be how, even if I have no units left, I might get 30 victory points because the bombs are coming no matter what. Because I screamed the bugs are here into my mic. Okay, yeah. So I will agree with you, Nick. I think I like these. The core of this I really like. The random deployment, the random mission, and the random like twist I really like, because it's just Warcry. It's the Warcry deck. It's literally just the Warcry deployment deck, and I think they're using something I think works really well. The add-on stuff, it's just it's more mental load. I don't think we need. I would have been fine if like it was all just pick 2. Like I don't think I'm ever going to use the procedural mission stuff because it's just too much stuff turn by turn. I will just have the 2 like randomly picked fixed missions probably and use them all the time, because they feel like then I can just keep track of what's going on cards in front of me, which is nice. So I do love having the physical assets, because I don't love having to like track things on scraps of paper, and all the like previous 9th edition secondaries, you have to like write shit down and like have like all this like extra bookkeeping and scorekeeping. Like that did nothing for me. So just having cards I can put dice on.
I found a whiteboard for it.
That's true. It's a great whiteboard for it. Oh my god! If you need to have a whiteboard, I'm gonna make you wear that whiteboard around your neck like you're one of those like deaf kids in the 1920s where you just write shit on chalk on yourself.
The
It's never
engineer.
known. Yeah, yeah, like you're Tiny Tim. You have a little
That
chalkboard
guy
on your
was
neck.
right.
And get you a little chalkboard. Yeah. Oh my god, that's ridiculous. But yeah, I feel pretty good. Did you have a chance to have a look at it, Jay? Do you have any thoughts about it?
Yeah, I did. To be honest with you, the thing I liked the most about it wasn't actually the card deck itself. It was the possibilities that it opens up. So for me, like the basic idea of it is cool. I like it. Stuff like that, I always have to wait to see how it's actually going to play in the real world before I kind of formulate a real opinion about it. But for me, like there's been all these campaign packs for like the last few editions of 40K, but they all feel samey to me. Like they have some different background, but nothing mechanically about it feels any different, really. Like other than the boarding patrol stuff, or like you're playing on a specific type of scenery. And I like the fact that if you were going to do like a different themed campaign, you could do like they could just produce a different card set of assets to go with that to change up whether it's deployments or like all the different strategic elements that can come in from outside of your planned game.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know, like the deck looks okay. Like I'm stoked about giving it a try, but I'm more excited about seeing what that could look like, an expansion or 3 army books or something like that now.
Yeah, adding to it basically like down the road. And it
Yeah.
does give some replayability because it's not just the same 6 missions. Like that was the thing with like the chapter approved packs. It was just 6 missions and you play them exactly the same every single time. This way, I mean, there's a pile of everything in here. So you're going to have, once you like multiply the amount of deployments by the amount of missions, by the amount of like primary mission rules, you end up with a lot of different gameplay experiences out of a single deck of cards. I like that it came with the objectives too. I just thought that was cool. I thought that there was like, it was cool. There's just little hard card objectives in there.
Yeah, little
GW.
counters.
Little counters.
You can punch them back in and put them back in the box too.
Can you really? That's funny.
Really?
Yeah, if you keep the frame, you can keep the frames decently.
I sleeved all mine. Remember, I went and got tarot sleeves for all mine. That is one thing I will say. They're tarot size. I was kind of surprised they were tarot sized. I use a company called Board Game Sleeves that makes tarot size sleeves, which are really nice. They're matte. But once I had to take the objectives out because once I sleeved them, they didn't fit back in the box. But with the objectives removed and the sleeves, then they seem to still fit. Mostly the ones I'm using, at least. So that's basically, I think, the last key component besides Crusade. And the Crusade stuff, I think. Two big quality of life improvements to Crusade. It's mostly the same, except there's no power. It specifically says you use points now instead of power, so there's no quick army building. Yeah, there's no quick army building. It does reference the idea that you will be playing with agendas and stuff still, which seem to replace the secondary objectives, which is nice. It kind of slots into the new way that the mission rules are built. And you're just playing match play games with a story. And it gives you additional sort of like parameters for the missions themselves. They all seem narratively driven. They're all about the Leviathan invasion and the defense the Imperium puts up basically to try and stop the Tyranids coming in. And they hint at the fact that there will be more and more of these Crusade things. So I'm really glad they didn't give up on Crusade. I'm glad that it just blends into your regular 40K games now. There's still the same sort of like fun buck stuff. You can get enhancements specific to your units and cool new like gimmies for playing games. They do feel a bit lighter than they were. There's not like the same level of enhancement and unit enhancement as there was in the previous core book, but it's still there. So I'm encouraged. I guess we'll see if it gets expanded or not. I do like the fact that the actual unit cards are way smaller because you needed a ton of paperwork in the last Crusade. Every unit needed its own sheet. And these are a lot smaller, basically like 2 or 3 instead of sheet, I think now.
Yeah, they did.
Which is kind of nice. Yeah, it was a lot. We had to do a lot of bookkeeping for Crusade in 9th edition. Although I think my favorite games of early 9th edition was playing Necrons versus Ultramarines Crusade with that one. It was a lot of fun. We had a lot of good times playing those games. And that's the core rules. That's the rule book part of this. So let's look at some toys because you guys have been painting more than me. I've been painting other things, but I haven't been. I've been catching up. I've been saving it for this podcast because I have like a whole week coming up where I'm going to do nothing but basically paint Ultramarines and share pictures of them on my Instagram and Facebook and do some live streams and stuff. So I've been saving these, but I'm gonna attempt to share my screen here, folks, so you guys can all see these. And when I'm talking, you guys can see cool models. I'm going to airplay because this worked before.
Hopefully, he won't share anything inappropriate.
That's right. No, I made an album, so we can't do that. I'm
Like photos are for
90%
children.
sure.
Everybody keep your cameras waist up only.
That's right. Yeah. Let's not get weird. Share screen pause. I'm going to share screen from my iPhone, iPad via AirPlay, and it's going to show up now. He said question mark.
Something is happening.
Something is happening. There we go.
Hey,
Look at that.
space bugs.
Space bugs. Guess who painted
Wow,
that space
it's a
bug?
bug.
Not me, thank God. Good job, Chris. So who's this guy and what are you doing here?
That's the shooting bug. What's his name?
Shooting bug.
It's the Gunathrope.
Yeah, that's the one.
His name is Blasto.
You know, I first saw these models and I was like, just the first pictures I saw, I was like, that they looked a bit lame if I was being honest.
They're flat. They're very flat. Yeah.
Getting them in person, they're quite chonky. And
yeah, that's a 40. It's a 40 mil base.
Yeah, so they're actually like twice, 3 times bigger than a Termagant. And I love that they like it's basically like a missile launcher Space Marine, like
that's
a
cool.
bug, right? So they have this
Biomissile.
giant gun that they're leaning up on.
And my favorite thing about this gun is the gun is riding the gaunt. Like if you look at it, the gun's brain is plugged into the back of the gaunt's head, and it's
That's sweet.
the gun is in control, and the gaunt is just like a chassis.
Exactly, like he's got that crazy brain or whatever, like this it's
Oh,
all
it's
linked
like
up or whatever, yeah.
Leviathan.
It's the brain slugs from Futurama. It's cold down there. it's the brain slugs. What else we got? We've got another view of him from the other side. So how'd you
Yeah,
paint
that
these?
looks so cool.
Yeah, so just looked up some schemes. This is one of the newer high fleets. I think it's Tiamat or something like that. And I like the kind of like cold blue gray tones they had with it contrasted with like the nice dark carapace. So I did like some quick airbrushing to get the skin colors down. And then used a lot of contrast paint, if I'm being honest, just to kind of get. I love.
That's
contrast
just.
paint, man.
I love contrast paints too.
What a
Be
great
honest,
product.
man. People want to know how you did this.
So especially on small models like this, you can get away with it on even on flat surfaces, like because there's not too much large flat surfaces where the contrast paints can kind of like cool a bit too much.
Yeah, the texture on those carapaces is perfect for contrast.
Exactly, and then so like Black Templar on the carapace, I use one of the newer ones, the burgundy on all the pinks,
Sigvald burgundy, yeah.
The emerald on all of the sort of like gooey bits.
All those little tubes, all those little HR Geiger tubes
and glass, yeah.
Those little weird HR Geiger tubes.
Yeah, and then just like and then the paint comes after all the highlighting and shading and stuff. But
I like that you follow my method though. If you do all the messy stuff, like you do all the basing gels and you do all the airbrushing and stuff, and then you go in with the smaller and smaller colors. It's such a time saver.
Big time for sure. Especially when you got a big project like this, like it's like 45 models, but realistically, it's going to be like 100 models if I'm doing a whole collection.
Yeah,
right?
when you get to the whole collection,
I'm like, I gotta pick a scheme that I can actually like do, and I'm working my way through all the highlights on all the armor on the Termagants, and that's killing me a little bit. But
do you find that once you get the scheme down though, once you get like the pattern down, so like I'll show you guys a trick that I do. I actually separate all the paints out for a project that I do and put them in a separate little box. And then I can just come back to that stuff, and I can just turn my brain off and like do all the gold on like 20 guys and like just have those exact paints in front of me.
Absolutely, Ash. Part of army painting is literally like what's the compartmentalizing like your hobby, like down to like the smallest element to make your life as simple as possible while you're doing that. So like Ash is right, like I literally have a bin like this or whatever.
Oh my god, I have one too. I literally
like
right
it's like
yeah.
It's got like 5 paints in it and like a couple brushes, and it's like don't even think, just like sit down and just start putting that color on, because that's your life while you're painting.
Your life is just nothing but gold right now. Ash, you're going to do nothing but paint gold. Yeah, that's right. All right, what else we got? We got a Von Ryan's Leaper. Damn.
These are sweet models. These are my favorite. Like that's why I was stoked to get the Tyranids. Like they're like mini lictors basically. Like
it's funny because they're the same size as second edition lictors, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, I think you're right. They're
R40s. They're huge.
I'm hoping this means we're getting like a new big ass lictor.
Yes. Yeah. Something like the bigger Broodlord where it's like the daddy version of this.
But I love the Cthulhu faces. Like they're really. You know what I should say about the new Tyranids is they look a lot more alien-like looking. Like
They've gone back to
they're
being
a
more
bit
alien, yeah.
scarier than they were. Like less goofy, a little bit more like ooh, like
And random.
creepy eyes. The like Cthulhu. Yeah.
It felt like Games Workshop got very fixed into like these are the 3 types of Tyranids, and they have to look exactly like they're all based on the same thing. And now they're like, no, wait, this is literally just an organism that grows whatever it needs whenever it needs it. Let's make it Guyver. Let's get Mark Hamill in one of these weird suits. Guyver it. Good Guyver reference. I'm keeping the references current.
But and like Tyranids are not a terrible choice for a starter box army. Like let's be like if like how many like what a million like 500,000 people are gonna end up with these, or I don't know, some crazy number.
Some crazy number, yeah.
It's gonna be some crazy number, and like at the end of the day, like you can paint a good looking Tyranid very easily. And
sure
so
can.
It's a pretty smart starter box army to put in there.
There's the group shot of the what did we call them? Gunbows?
Yeah.
And the leapers. Where's the big guy? Ooh, I like this shot of your Termagants.
Yeah, they're cool. Yeah, they're you know what, the dude Termagants? You're like, you first get it in your hand, you're like, is it that different? Like, and he's on a 28 mil. So, but and then you like look at the man, they're it's like going from like an old VHS to like a 4K video. Like, they are so sharp. Yeah. They're so sharp. Like, they're beautiful.
Like look at his arms. His arms actually have like some like musculature to them. Like they're not just like these plates. Like they were just like kind of tubey like C3PO armor before. Now they actually look like they're actually like real animals. And I love his gun. I like that all the guns have brains. And then this guy's
awesome. Yeah.
Look at his
you can't see
smokestacks.
it as good in this picture, but he has like Predator face. Like Arnold's beating up on Predator and he's mad and he's just
what how like, you
it's cool, man. He's also ripping a Space Marine in half.
He sure is
with his mouth.
Wearing him like a hat.
Yeah, he sure is. He sure is. That guy's having the worst day ever. He's getting the brakes just beaten off of him.
Like maybe he didn't realize that his mouth did that.
Yeah, he's like, oh, I just thought it was normal tentacles. I didn't know it was these rip you in half tentacles. That's some old bullshit right there. Well, to show you, so Chris is impressing everyone right now with his current level of state of completeness for our upcoming game. As Chris and I will be playing a game in a week, right, Chris?
Yeah.
In a week, sweet. That's how long you got. I'm just telling you.
That's all we get, yeah.
Yeah, sure, guy.
Sure, guy. Okay, cool.
Checks in the mail.
Here's how done I am. I put mine together because I've been holding off doing this. I've literally been painting anything except for these guys. I put them all together because I wanted to break the back of that because I wanted to share it when I could share it, like how I was doing it. So what I've done is I've put together my first like leg of these guys. I have the Dreadnought put together and the veterans, the characters, and the like the biologists, the lieutenant, and the second half of the First Marines also already put together. I just haven't airbrushed them yet because I'm literally like trying to keep it to stages. So I have my Terminator Captain, my Terminator Librarian, my Terminators, and half the Infernus Marines. It's then ready to go. They are just primed with just some gloss black primer and then sprayed with cobalt blue, which is a Green Stuff World metallic that I use for my like old school Ultramarines style where they're all like a shiny metallic blue. I did the Librarian with like just a classic like dark blue though. That's just like a Cantor blue, I think, on them. And then I go through and I'm going to pick out all the metallics. And then that's why I was like making jokes about gold. I'm painting gold for the rest of my life. And then I'll do all the details one by one.
How do you like bring up the blue? Do you just like edge highlight with silver and stuff?
So what I do is I actually bring it down. So what I'll do is I'll go in with Nuln Oil and I'll deepen all the recesses. I'll do all the tubing and like the backs of the knees, all the like sort of like breaks in the armor with like a dark gray. And then at the same time, I'll do all of the like the recesses with black. And then I do exactly just that. I take like Stormhost Silver and I'll just like batter the edges. So it looks like whatever that enameling is basically when they rub up against stuff, if they get shot or gets beaten up. And I'll do a little bit of battle damage and stuff too, like put a little bit of brown in it maybe just to like weather mark it when I do the silver. But it's a really fast way to do metallic. I'd call this the Horus Heresy way of painting metallics. Yeah. The same, I think the Horus Heresy painting team used this same like methodology for painting all the Word Bearers and the Blood Angels and all the other ones they did like with the metallics, I think, in the original like color schemes. So it's quick and dirty, but it looks really, really sharp. And I just think for me, it makes Ultramarines look more menacing. You know, like I really like that old school look for Ultramarines from the Rotator book. And
it gives them a really grimdark feel. Like every time I play against them, I'm like, oh yeah, here comes them tough Space Marines.
Yes.
And also
my entire Indominus box is painted this way. So I wasn't gonna do them not the same way as the like. There's probably like, I don't know, 50 already painted, plus all the kill team stuff, because all my kill team stuff I painted up as the Ultramarines as well. They were my 9th edition army, so I'm just gonna continue through 10th edition. Because why not just have one Space Marine army that never stops growing and expanding forever? That's how you do it. That's how you 40k forever, is you just have the same army all the time. So in not painting these, I've been painting I can see a little bit closer there, the metallics and stuff. I've been painting what Nick's been painting. Nick's been painting sisters.
Oh yeah.
Nice.
Not a great photo of them, but I've been painting sisters.
I like that you picked red. It looks like you're doing contrast too.
No, actually this is long layer paint. I think that the hero is probably a better photo of it. Yeah. I decided to do bloody rose instead of just the traditional black. And it's like no James Workshop paint. Sorry, James.
So what colors are these?
This is the new Vallejo line of the game colors that Chris was sold out of. I'd find somewhere else. Maybe they're back now. So it's just 3 colors up from the red of what is this? Gory red, bloody red, orange fire. So it's very similar to the Games Workshop, like Mephiston red, Scarlet red, orange, but I just find the pigmentation's a little bit brighter. It's kind of nice.
Sweet.
And then the blacks are just it's my secret. It's the Fang. I use it on everything. Every one of my army has the Fang in it.
Yeah, is it Corvus Black mixed with the Fang? I really like Corvus Black.
It's just AK flat black into mixed up the Fang into rust gray for the black, and then for the white, it's rust gray blended up to white.
Sweet, that's perfect.
And then the metallics, I'm on that scale 75 line too. All the golds and all the silvers.
Yeah, I gotta get some more Viking gold, Chris. You better have it in stock. I'm almost out of Viking gold. These guys need some Viking gold trim.
Yes, they do. Yeah.
Because it covers really well.
Chris's store still has Viking gold in stock. You're good to
go.
Oh,
fantastic. Okay, good. Jay's holding some up right now.
I have a bunch of cool bases made for them too, but they're not on the bases because they're not painted yet.
Well, Nick, that's a good painting tip though for black. Like mixing a little bit of blue in always.
Yeah,
especially and I went with a really warm color for the red, so I actually got to hide some coolness in the black. Yeah,
absolutely. Well, sweet. That was cool. We got to see some miniatures. So what did you guys think of the models that you've built so far? Obviously, Nick, you got your hands on some of the Space Marines. Chris, you painted the Tyranids, and I built the Space Marines so far too. What did you guys think about the models?
I like that the firstborns look like the Primaris kind of. So like the what are they? The Stern Guard squad with the beaky helmet and the firstborn helmet. I like the mix. It looks really cool together.
They look like veterans. Yeah, they look like they're from all over the place. Like some of them might be Stern Guard, some of them might be, regular like Primaris that have just been around for. Because I mean, how long is the Primaris? So like it's like 150 years or something now, isn't it? Like something crazy. Like
we've been around
time skipping every edition.
People, we're all Space Marines.
I mean, it does kind of feel that way. It does kind of feel like that's the wedge that lets you say like, yeah, this is it. We get to like say goodbye. I mean, they just announced the saying goodbye to the Box Dreadnought. He's gone. He was the best. That classic Box Dreadnought is I think getting ended in all the Forge World ranges, and there's like a last chance to buy
for different reasons.
Yeah, it's just the Vendread for the Space Wolves and the Grey Knights.
Blood Angels, maybe. Is the Blood Angel one still around?
The Blood Angel one I think is still around too. Yeah, it seems like the
because that's their Librarian Dreadnought, right?
It's their everything Dreadnought. Yeah, it's like the Librarian, the Furioso, and the Death Company. Like the same box. Yeah.
I mean, they just don't fit. They don't fit with any of the new ranges anymore. Like everything's been upscaled, like size wise, and like I have a couple of the Furiosos with my Blood Angels army, which is a Primaris army essentially, and they look a little silly. Like
I have Ironclads in mine, and they don't because the Ironclads were enormous.
They were bulky,
like compared to the old, like they were big, so they kind of still fit. But you're right, the rest of them look really small, which is funny because like the drop pods also look really small. Like they should redo the drop pod because like how do Primaris guys fit in these shoulder straps? Like these shoulder straps are like narrower than their waist. It doesn't make any sense.
They're handrails on the bus.
Yeah. You do get a decal sheet in this box.
Yeah, you do.
Hashtag Warhammers for everyone.
So you get a decal sheet for the Space Marines, and you only get the chapters that aren't the White Scars and the Salamanders, and I was disappointed by that. I don't know. I don't know why you would put in not all of them. Like, it's also not an 8.5 by 11 sheet, so like you could have just added another 3 inches to this and put in all of them. It's weird. Yeah, that's all I'm going to say about that. But you get Ultramarines, Dark Angels, Blood Angels, Space Wolves, Raven Guard, and Imperial Fists. And no White Scars or Salamanders. Raven Guard are on here, dude, and no Salamanders, right? Like, when have Raven Guard ever been on?
I still have the Raven Guard Christmas box. Like, it's
exactly.
It's the last to sell every year.
They're my favorite army, and you still have
Raven
it. Yeah. I should go get that box and do Raven Guard.
I don't know. It's all infiltrators. I don't think.
No, I should go get it done. I should go get it and do a Raven Guard army because I have a Raven Guard Horse Heresy army. I should do a Primaris version of it too. I should absolutely do it. Hold on to it for me. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know why. It's just weird. It's a weird shape. It's like, I don't know why you wouldn't just put them all in if you're gonna put those in. The only thing I will dunk on in this model kit is this guy.
No, I knew it was gonna be the Dreadnought.
Why? What's his deal?
No.
He has little teeny chicken legs.
He's a mech warrior.
So hard.
His little teeny chicken leg. I don't know. I just don't like his pose. He's very static, and he's the least Primaris-y Dreadnought.
Okay,
because he has the old Dreadnought's weapons. They didn't Primarisify his weapons. He has a twin-linked las cannon and a missile launcher, which is what the old Dread had. If you're gonna Primarisify something, give it like a quad las cannon. Give it did Call forget how to build extra cool las cannons?
Destroyer,
did Call just not? Sorry, it's gotten dark now since we've been talking, so you can't really see this that well. But he's got a missile launcher and a las cannon that's exactly the same as the original Dread's missile launcher and las cannon.
So he skipped leg day and arm day?
Yeah, he skipped leg day and arm day. He's all torso.
Just doing crunches. Doing crunches all day.
He's got like late stage Hogan gut. You know, where he's all torso. He's all slabby torso. Yeah, I don't know.
At least he can walk.
He can walk. Yeah, he's standing up very straight. Like, he has more leg than almost even the other two Dreadnoughts of this, because the Brutalis Dreadnought and the Redemptor Dreadnought. But he's just got dinky little guns. He's got little chicken legs, and then his arms are just not, like, it's not inspiring. Like, if you're going to Primarisify a classic Dreadnought loadout, give me something cooler than that. Like, give me a super laser destroyer, and I don't even, just give it a cooler name. Like, it's a missile launcher. Like, give me, I don't know, Primaris altitude extra cool missile rack or something.
Fragmentation launcher.
Yeah, exactly. Like, call it the Borealis Hellstorm rocket attack pod or something. Like,
that was actually a serious problem in ninth, though, when I was going through weapon profiles on a tank, and I'm like, I don't even know what this thing had anymore. I'm sorry.
That's right. It's just adjective gun.
There's one other model that I think you can kind of harp on a little bit.
Sure.
And I think it's not that it's a bad model, it's that there's like a bit of a missed opportunity, I think. And I think that's the Tyranid Prime.
Yeah, like, I would agree on that too. He's very like flat.
Yeah.
He's very flat. Like, he photographs really well from one direction. He has one good angle.
It's super weird.
He has one look. Like he's Zoolander,
like,
you know.
He's Zoolander.
Yeah.
To have a dude who's got like reasonably big wings, and for that to be the pose on it, that's just goofy.
Yeah.
It's because he's tactically able to hide behind buildings. If he was bigger, he'd be so easy to see.
When has Games Workshop ever given two shits about that?
It's one of the only models I look at and I'm like, you know, instead of being like, how could we make this cool? I think the more the thing they thought about was like, how can we fit this on the sprue?
Yeah.
Which is a shame, you know, because it's just like, he could have huge ass wings and look cool, but
yeah, or be like crouching on a rock. Like, I think about that Broodlord from the Space Hulk box set, or the most recent like the Hive Cult thing, the Magus. It's like crouching on a rock. Like, there's so many ways to be static and still be menacing and be like a big like space alien. It's weird that you're right. He feels more like a unit leader than he does like an actual like heroic like bad guy.
Yeah. Is he a unit leader?
No, he's the character. It says right in the rulebook. He has a name. He's like I can't remember what his name was. He's like the terror of something. He's a dude, man. He's the dude from.
He's the guy.
He's your leader in the. He's your leader in the box. Yeah, in your combat patrol.
Yeah, in the book,
Well, you
it's
can tell
like,
what a great impression he made if nobody ever can remember his name.
it's like the it's like the
It's
That's a good
despoiler,
sign.
terror of
it's called.
despoiler. I don't know. Insert like adjective of
I think
Dr.
it's the
Tyranid
Tyranid
would be
evilness.
Glitterax.
Yeah, he's the Tyranid of yeah, exactly it. Yeah, he's okay. Like I think he's okay too. You're right. He's definitely a slightly missed opportunity, especially considering how cool like the big like brain psychic terror thing is. And the thing you just showed us, but that's whatever that thing's called, the one with the smokestacks. They're cool and dynamic and different doing
instead
something.
of in though. Like if it was the same thing, just like this, I'm sure someone's gonna try to chop it off and repose him.
He's doing like an I am Batman. You know what I mean? Like it looks like he's pulling his wings in front of himself to like Dracula out. You know, just be like, and it's I don't know, it doesn't work for a big like hero model. I don't think either. Well, so that's it. So let's talk briefly about what's not in this box. Because this box is not a 2-player starter set. And I harped about this the last couple times it's happened. I don't know why they don't put dice and a tape measure in these boxes. They're for existing customers. Sure. Maybe that's going to be the thing that comes in the future. Maybe like
they're going to do the command.
They're going to do the command or whatever edition.
Yeah.
Sure. But like, why not lead with that? Why are you just selling your initial line to your other customers? Like, there's got to be some AOS
they've ever made for an edition start for 8th edition. Then they stopped putting dice in things. Ash and I both agree the dice that are slightly bigger than the tiny dice, but they're slightly smaller than the big dice.
Yeah.
Here's my question: if you're gonna put a deck of tarot-sized cards in this set, why can't there be cards for the units?
Yes, and that's the other thing is there's no stats. There's no ability to like. There is in the building instructions for them, there is a loose set of pictographic stats that generally tells you what things do, but they don't match the description of data cards from the rule book. So you need to infer, if you're opening this box, what things are and how they work. And there's no explanation of like special rules or anything. Like any of the keyword, any stuff that's described as being on a data slate doesn't exist in this box. So you can't play a game with just this box. And that's okay, because this game is clearly designed to be for existing customers who are inside the Games Workshop ecosystem, who are going to download whatever the next line of things are that comes out that tells us what all this stuff does. But this box
bothers me so much though. Like when you lower every other barrier to entry, when you make the game so much easier for a new player to take on board. Everything about this box speaks to that, except for the missing components. This shouldn't be for existing
it better sell out.
It has to sell out because if it sits on a shelf, it becomes a problem product. Because it's a product that doesn't
at some stores.
Well, Dominion works though because Dominion has unit cards, dice, templates, and rulers in it, right? Every AOS box has been playable out of the box, and this box isn't, and it's just. It feels like a minor nitpick because I know this box is designed for existing customers. I know it's designed to be dumped into an ecosystem where there's going to be digital downloads that cover all those bases. But you got to sell out then. Every one of these boxes needs to be open because otherwise some kid's going to stumble upon one in a game store someday and have a disappointing first experience at Games Workshop.
So maybe nobody else will be on the same page as me with this, but Chris, I'm going to go to Chris. Don't you feel like the missing components feels like you just watched somebody hit a foul ball 370 feet? This close.
Oh my god.
Was this close?
Yeah, I mean like I don't know. It's one of those things we all know. It was they went 97% of the way there, you know. Like
yeah.
It wouldn't have cost them much.
It's so good, but it just misses.
Because like I would legitimately like every time stuff like this comes out, there are people that are like new and are looking like, is this something I should pick up? And you know, you are a little hesitant sometimes when you're like, oh yes, but you know,
well, creates an extra step.
You spend $260 or $280 or whatever it's going to cost, and
now you got to go to the internet to get the
game.
Now there's still something else you have to buy as well on top of that.
And if that's your first pitch to a new customer, like it's so the wrong message. It's so not the message you want to send them.
Yeah.
Or they come and they want to buy the box.
Go get the rest of the
and you have to like
online.
talk them down from buying it. Like that's insane, right? Like
yeah.
I don't know. Yeah.
I'm gonna play slight devil's advocate in only one capacity, in that most of us are old guys and aren't used to the fact that a lot of these people nowadays I find are more used to their phones being a part of everything they do. So
Sure.
they're
Yeah.
going to pick up this game and they're going to go, oh, okay, scan the QR code, get my book, sweet, less stuff to
Yeah.
do. But even I'm not that old, but I still love my paper. I love my data slates. I love my books. I don't want to be on my phone when I'm playing my game. That's why I'm playing my game.
Well, then there's also like what if these get locked in the box for a long time? What if these don't come up by themselves for a long time? The rule books are free. These cards are gonna maybe sit in a box until they get released separately. And what if this is a key component?
I will say
to play, right?
the one thing I will say that's
Yeah.
different about this than about the rule book is this does have a UPC code.
Oh, it does have a
printed on
UPC code on it. Sweet.
which makes it feel like it's prepped for retail sale.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think this is a box cover. I think this Leviathan covers the box cover for this
Mhm.
box. I think this exact product is gonna have a new cover and a UPC probably when it comes
Yeah.
out separately. I would guess,
and to jump on to Nick's point, like I do agree that there's a good chunk of younger people that won't struggle with that, but I also have an overwhelming amount of evidence that shows that like people of all ages, for some reason, like ask me the most easy to answer questions on a daily basis that they could figure out themselves, but they don't want to. So anytime you create extra steps for people, I don't know, like you're asking for some trouble. But I mean,
well, I mean,
maybe-
how many units in the box? There's Terminate. There's 1, 2, 3 characters, 4 characters, 1, 2, 3 units for the Space Marines. There's eight cards with the stuff basically,
That was
and
my
Tyranids
guess.
have about the same. So like under 20 cards, some dice, and a couple of cardboard tape measures. Like I don't know what it would have added to the box set, but you would have basically created an
16
experience that
pieces
would
of
be
paper.
Yeah, I guess again, it probably seems minor. My brain instantly goes to if someone encounters a box unassisted, there's additional steps basically required.
Yeah.
And it doesn't cost you much to make sure that no one ever has a negative experience with that product. Right, as opposed to have like it's like the Titanic, you know what I mean? Like just weld the walls to the top of the roof. Like it's just like why didn't you just weld these walls like 4 feet higher? These bulkheads could have been 4 feet higher and nothing would have happened. Like 4 more feet above the water line. Like it's just one of those little things where it's like
I guarantee you, it's like what you're saying is they're looking at the Indominus release. They're saying, look how crazy that was. We're just gonna blow through this in a week and then move on. You know?
Yeah, probably.
I don't know if I don't know if it's going to happen that way, but we'll see.
And when this box comes into
right?
when it comes out to retail, like we're getting it early. This won't be like there will literally be digital assets in place for all this stuff by the time this comes out for the regular customer, right? So this will not be an issue. Period. Let's be super clear about that. Like it will there will be a place to go to get all that information when this box is on the streets for real. It's that imagine nothing tells you that and you don't know to go there. It's still not in the box, right? That's I guess the point I'm trying to make. Well, that's it. That's the product. I'll be honest, I'm excited. I think we go to the last step here. I don't want to give any kind of rating system like 1 to 5 or 1 to 10 or anything like that, but some categories, like amount of stuff you get. Let's just say quality of the stuff, quantity of the stuff, and then like your overall impression. And I'll go first. So quality of the stuff, they're Games Workshop miniatures. They push fit super easy. They're all really pretty when they're put together. I'm going to give it, I think, a standard 9 out of 10 for like the quality of the components. The components are fantastic. The book quality is really good. The binding's still good with the amount of stuff I've like put it through so far. The card quality is really good on these tarot cards. Even the ones I didn't sleeve are still in good shape. Had the right base count, came with decals, which is a nice touch. They didn't have to come with decals. So quality of the product, I give it a 9 out of 10. Quantity for the price tag, we don't know what the price tag is yet. Even the retailers don't know yet. But it's a lot of models. It's like what? It's almost 80 models, 70 models, 45 Tyranids, and that's a lot of models. Like that's a lot of models. So, and they're all good size models too. You get a big centerpiece for each of the 2 armies. I would say, and it's a big hardcover rulebook, and the quality of the cards and stuff in it are good too. I mean, the amount of stuff you get in this box, and we're going to be talking Canadian prices here. We're guessing between $250 and $300, which is like what the Dominion box was. that feels about right for the amount of stuff you get in here. If you were to price it out individually, probably a dread's like 65, 70 bucks Canadian, 50
Maybe
bucks
more
US.
simple.
Try 85,
Big-ass-
bud.
Yeah,
85.
way up from-
Big ass hardcover and 2 combat patrols, right? Like
Yeah.
that on your store shelf has got to be like $475, right?
Yeah, 475.
And it's more than that, because those boxes are more than the combat patrols. It's like 750, 1,000 points.
Yeah. The combat patrol, as outlined in the rule book, is just 1 Inferno squad, 2 characters, and the Terminators. So like you're getting an extra 15, 16, 17 guys compared to the combat patrol. So you get almost twice as many models basically for the Space Marines, 2 combat patrols almost, and a dread. So that's a lot of models. And the Tyranids the Tyranids is like a bunch of extra stuff, a bunch of big bugs and characters and stuff too, compared to what's outlined as the combat patrol. So yeah, value seems good to me. And it has, okay, so this has been this is going to sound so petty. They used the good quality cardboard for the box lid.
Oh yeah.
I know this sounds petty, but a bunch of like recent releases from GW have had like a thin cardboard with like a sleeve inside that you pull out. So it's like a wraparound all the way cardboard. Then you open like a flap and you slide out like a loose like tray like this in like a lighter cardstock. I like keeping these boxes because I'm insane and I'm a hoarder.
How's it supposed to fit into Box Mountain if it's going to collapse?
And
Those
well,
boxes are super useful, man.
And you paint. They're my paint trays. I fill them with paints and miniatures and paint out of them.
Any project I'm working on goes in the box lid.
That's exactly it. Yeah, the project goes in the box. So I am actually really pumped that they use the high quality cardboard and stuff on the boxes. That's gonna sound really stupid after being mad that there's no.
Man, my friends and I joked about doing. My friends and I joked about doing a Kickstarter for high quality box or whatever.
Yeah.
For 20 minutes. Like, honestly, man, they're awesome. The boxes they make that are like that are great.
Yeah. It's like wrapped too. It's like black cardstock. Like it's like wrapped on the inside. Man, it's a really high quality box.
This is my photo drop background. Sometimes I put my guys in it with my leg.
How did we turn this into that episode of The Simpsons where Bart goes to the box factory and gets all excited about double wall boxes?
That's right. Yeah, he builds the box for it.
You're not even you anymore. You're your pet. You're your pet. You put all the miniatures in the book aside. And you're just playing with the box.
It's an ash trap. It's an ash trap. So what about you guys? What do you guys think about the box set?
I liked it. Oh,
no, go, Nick.
Okay. I mean, anytime someone hands you a box and it weighs like, I'm not a very big guy. It like makes me go, whoa, that's a heavy box. It's a lot of plastic. You open it up and it's right to the top of plastic and there's not a whole lot of filler. There's lots of models. It's easy to clip out, easy to build. If you're new and you had an afternoon with a buddy, you could probably clip them all out and build them in an afternoon or two. Start playing pretty quick. No complaints.
Could you start playing pretty quick though? Or would you have to wait until it came out? Probably with the digital stuff.
Well, the theory is you could start playing pretty quick.
You would own a lot of miniatures. All right. Well, just saying. What about you, Jay?
So it's funny because it sounds like I've griped a lot. But to be perfectly honest, I think the box set is great. I think everything in it is great. All my complaints are about how it could have been just a bit better, honestly. The rule book is fantastic. I love it. I mean, visually it's stunning. It's got everything you want almost. Like the rules are clear, they're easy to read. There's tons of background material, there's tons of pictures and miniatures. The one thing that I doubt I'll be done being confused about before 11th edition comes out is where page 1 is. But other than that, it's good.
It's got 2 page ones. It's oneception.
Oneception. I don't have the models, but the models look amazing. If you're into either of those 2 armies, they look sweet. If you're not into either of those 2 armies, the way everybody's going to be playing for the first little bit, it's a great place to start a new army. Like, it's a good selection of models, and the models are of good quality. And like I said, I really like the card deck. Like, I'm generally a guy who's not like a lot of collateral with my games. I like my miniatures and my rule book, but the cards seem really functional, and they seem like they're going to add a lot of variety to the game. So, yeah, overall, it looks really good to me.
One thing you said that's interesting, which just triggered something that I forgot to mention actually during the rulebook review, is there's no army construction rules in this book except for you can't take 3 of anything or more than 3 of anything, and you have to have a character. So
Because that's the rules.
because that's the rules.
That's
So
the
the core rules of the
rules.
game. That's
It
the
doesn't
rules.
matter.
It's even simpler than AOS. It's just you got to have a character lead your army, and you have to have at least a maximum of 3 of any data card.
But
We'll see how long that lasts. Well, and this is when we start reading the tea leaves. We're gonna get little tinfoil hats at the end. We're gonna see how long that lasts. Because that feels like the first.
What if my opponent took an entire army of Bloodthirst?
Bloodthirst? How many Bloodthirsts can I take? I can take. How many Angrons can I take? Oh, you can only take unique Epicures once.
You only take 3 Angrons.
And you can only take 1 Angron.
This is
But
Angron Jr.
You could have 1 Angron and 9 Bloodthirsters. That could be your army if you want it to be. Literally, there's nothing stopping you from doing that from the way the muster your army rules work in 10th edition. But that means that you don't have to sweat about what comes in these boxes either. So when Nick said that you could just play right out of the box, you're not wrong in so much that you don't have to worry about what those units are and what they do. They're all, it's a valid army because it has a character and has no more than 2, like I think 2 of any one thing in those boxes. So that's if I was to be a betting man, that would be the first thing that is considered to be the the wrong way to play 10th edition. And that's going to be the first thing where it's like, no, we need more restrictions. We need more people to tell us how to take things. And when we do finally see the like grand tournament match play rules, I'm going to bet there's some kind of chart. There's some kind of chart of charts that you have to chart your units.
But I love that until that comes out, somebody can walk into a store, just pick out the thing they think looks the coolest for the army they're the most excited about, and that's what they're buying first.
Yeah. I love that.
Look, I get to play 3 war bosses.
Love
I
that
haven't been able to do that forever.
I especially love that for Chris. But honestly, I think it's funny because it's such a pendulum swing away from 9th edition. This really does feel like an indictment of the way the last edition ended up. And it feels like a real direction change, a real like boat moving in a different direction. And call out of that idea of like these ponderous piles of paper and tons of different like requirements and tons of things you had to know and overhang information and mental load. My how I feel about this and where I'm going to go with 40K is I almost guarantee that this is the most I'm going to be in love with this edition right now because it's as simple as it can possibly be. It's boiled down to its bones. It feels exactly like what the designers are intending it to be. And historically speaking, over the next 3 years, it's going to get tweaked and touched and pushed and prodded and like molded into something slightly different, probably by the audience more than by the company. Because that's how things like the ITC grew up. That's how people who need more restrictions developed the pitch battle pack for AOS. Like when stuff hits the wild, I think all bets are off, but I love playing a game as it was intended by its design team. And I think that I want to explore this game for a while and appreciate how it's been presented and how it's been laid out. It feels like it's been thoughtfully curated into something very different from the last 2 editions. And I'm excited to see how that goes. And from the roadmap on the live stream, they're not releasing stuff very fast. I think we get 2 codexes per season going forward, which I think is great. I don't need to have 2 codexes a month. That was madness.
Oh my god!
Do you get the sense that the codex layout and format is really going to dictate like their true vision of what like they want, like they see the game? Like, because I always get that feeling when that first codex comes out and you see it's laid out and how it's presented and where the formats are kind of placed in the book and any extra rules they decide to add in at that point when we
definitely saw it with battle tomes. I remember you and I talking about this at the beginning of 3rd edition AOS when you and I were playing games, and like how the 3rd edition battle tome had a real clear vision, and they've held to that all the way through. Right, they've really held to that, and they haven't even let the general's handbooks kind of like take that away even. I hope so. I mean, it's funny because the AOS and the 40K teams have never felt very close together. Like every time I got another general's handbook and it was still spiral bound, I was like, why can't the 40K books still be like this? Right? Like I'm like, this is the same company.
They make the best, same product.
Yeah. Like why don't I just have this? Yeah, like go knock on that guy's door. Just tell him to spiral bound. Like this is the greatest product you've ever made. The General's Handbooks are tremendous. And then I'd get another
Yeah.
chapter proof and be like, this is just, I'm literally going to lose this in 6
We do
months
love
and
the
not
Spirally
care.
books.
Yeah, if this disappears in 6 months, I won't care. I will not have any like emotional attachment to this book going forward. Yeah, so I hope so, Chris. I really do hope so. I really do hope the vision for where the game goes gets outlined in that, and I hope they take their time with it. Like when you think that like the second edition codexes, which are like beloved and collected by people and talked about, the life cycle of those was between 94 and 98. So 4 years. They did 9 books in 4 years. Right? That's not a lot of books. that's a book. That's a book a season, basically. That's not even. That's a book. That's a book a half every half year. It's 2 books a year, basically. And they're gonna do 2 books a quarter, roughly, like 8 books a year for this one. And there's how many books? 16 books. That's like a 2-year release cycle until the armies are all out. Maybe if they hold to that, what's been announced. That feels really good. Like if a new 40k codex came out every month and a half, I don't know, you'd actually get to like enjoy your book for a minute and like not have something come out and pave over it like 5 minutes later. It's just, I think having time to marinate is so important for a game where you have to collect hundreds of miniatures.
I think that's it. It's the classic push. Right? It's, are you a rules company? Are you a miniatures company? A miniatures company, then I'm not saying don't bring out new rules, but man, focus up on, cool models for people. Like rules can come when they come.
Yeah.
So I was listening to the guys talk about redoing all the data slates for 10th edition, and the guy said that there's over 2,000 entries right now that they had to redo and balance for 10th edition in the data slate. So I'm very appreciative for what they did. And anyway, I'm sure that there's going to be some typos, some characters and stuff with the wrong wounds, but we'll see you when you get it, I guess. And then we'll all work together to play a fun game. That's what we want to do, right? We just want to sit down and sit
and
next to someone for 2 to 3 hours and have a good time.
Yeah, it's not the indexes. Like paying money for the indexes didn't feel good after the codexes came out because we just had this stack of books we couldn't do anything with afterwards that you might need or might not need. Like I'm glad it's just a digital release this time around. It just feels better. It feels like the right way to produce stuff. Like and to take their own workload off. They had to make all those indexes and then rush out codexes for launch, right? Like so much better to not have to do indexes this time. Do a bunch of digital things. Because I'm sure all those digital assets can get reused when they lay the book out anyway. Right? If you're laying out a Space Marine Primaris Intercessor School, that same layout's going to get thrown into InDesign and put into a book layout at some point anyway, right?
You already have. You're not going to make something new.
Exactly. Yeah, it's a digital asset. You're just going to stamp into the document when it's all said and done. It's like the reason why every bolt pistol pouch on a Space Marine looks the same now. It's because it's coming from the same 3D asset bin and getting tacked onto the same 3D model of the Space Marine that's getting reposed over and over again. We live in a world where digital assets are a commodity, right? So I feel like it's just a better way for the consumer feeling good about it too. Because when they go and buy their codex, they didn't pay anything for their indexes, right? Their index cards just got downloaded and they're flipped through on their phone. And hopefully that vision gets clearer. I do feel like with how far the pendulum swung away from 9th edition with this book and this box set, though, there's a lot of hope for them taking back the reins of their own game and deciding what they want to make and then making something. And we can decide if we like it or not. But I want to experience a band's vision. I don't want someone to play a bunch of like auto-tuned, remixed, overproduced garbage to me. I want to hear their actual music. And if I like the album, great. If I don't like the album, fantastic. But if a band sticks around long enough and plays enough songs, there's just going to be a banger in there somewhere, right? Like this feels like the 10th studio album, and I don't know. I think this is the one where the person that came in and it got involved and broke up the band told them the bad manager or whatever may have been kicked out of the building, and so maybe they're back to their roots and they're making some music that we're all going to want to listen to.
9th edition was our Yoko.
That's poor Yoko.
Oh man.
Yeah. Well, on that note. Okay. Thanks, guys. I really appreciate this. So my plans for obviously this going forward, we are going to get together hopefully once a week, catch up with how everybody's doing on their painting projects. The 4 of us are going to play a Crusade all summer long. starting with these box sets. Chris and I doing Tyranids and Space Marines. Nick has picked Sisters of Battle. Jay has picked Gene Stealer Cults. And that way we can have a big 4-player throwdown to kick it off at the end. And yeah, we're going to do this Tyrannic War Crusade with the Imperium versus the Gene Stealer Cults and the Tyranids. And it should be a lot of fun. We're taking it back to the roots. Tale of 40-ish gamers, doing some like narrative stuff, Crusade stuff, exploring all the games. Chris and I've been, well, I don't know. We've been playing games together for, Jesus, almost 20 years. We did Soul Wars, I'm pretty sure.
Oh yeah.
We did Soul Wars. What else have we done that's been stupid in it? We did AOS because you love AOS. We did a lot of AOS back when AOS came out.
All the heresy stuff over the years.
All the heresy stuff over the years. I think this is the first time we've done 40K though.
Yeah.
So I'm pumped.
Probably.
So we're gonna keep you guys. Yeah, and we're gonna do these hangouts. So tell us what you think in the comments. I hope you guys enjoyed listening to 4 middle-aged men talk about the newest edition of 40K and what they thought. And yeah, I hope you heard some optimism because, like I said, every 3 years, this is the X that tries to take me back, and we'll see how it goes for the 4 of us. So thanks for watching. Thanks, I'm Ash.
Hey there, I hope you enjoyed that video. There are tons of other games already recorded for you to watch. Click over to my channel page if you haven't already, and have a look through the dozens of playlists full of videos. I guarantee you'll discover a game you haven't seen played before. I put out new videos 7 days a week, and every day is themed to a different genre as I continue to explore the wider world of gaming. Of course, none of that's possible without you, the viewer, so click a like and subscribe if you'd like to stay on top of what's happening here daily. My 2 kids and I are massively grateful to be able to have the flexibility of this job so I can always maximize my time with them. If you want to support me continuing to put out this content, it's only possible because of my amazing backers on Patreon who support the studio, equipment, and model cost, as well as being how I make the bulk of my living. You can also help out by buying a t-shirt through Spreadshirt, a measuring gauge or widget from Deathray Designs, or buying one of my games and supplements like Last Days, Gamma Wolves, and Blaster. As a way of showing my appreciation, patrons get early access to new games and supplements that I write throughout the course of the year. Huge thanks for watching, it really does help out, and happy gaming.